I didn't want to blame the diet. Because when you're a vegan, you're in denial that the diet's killing you.
I noticed.
Hey, this is Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan, and this time I'd like to thank my wife Angie for letting me know about this video from Billy Carson. Once again, someone I've never heard of. Apparently he's quite famous. He's like a TV celebrity, and he's known for things like ancient astronaut theory and alternative history and stuff like that. And all that's fine and cool. I have no problem with that. The reason why I'm responding to him here is, of course, the things he said about veganism. Recently, he went on a podcast, as we'll see, and said the most outrageous things I've heard about veganism, how it's killing people and stuff like this. And I've heard a lot of crazy stuff over the 10 plus years I've been responding to people here on Happy Healthy Vegan. So without further ado, let's jump right in.
Because I started realizing I was going to die from being a vegan.
So two quick things I want to point out there. First of all, his claim that he almost died being a vegan, and that he claimed that he was a vegan. So let's see if he was ever really vegan, or was he just eating plant-based?
It gave me osteoporosis, internal bleeding, leaky gut from all the oxalates and lectins ripping my gut line open.
Oxalates.
Wow, that's quite a lot of horrible stuff. Osteoporosis, internal bleeding, leaky gut. I mean, this is what eating plants causes? And kale is like ripping his gut apart. I've never heard of that before. I tried to Google that. There was nothing, so I resorted to AI. And AI is backing up what I had thought, that the oxalates in kale don't rip your gut apart or damage the gut.
Well, literally, they're like triangles.
Yeah, I
and
heard.
They'll rip.
The kale, right?
Yes,
Oh, the kale destroyed me.
your gut line.
Hey, I'm not a scientist, neither are these guys, but they sure make it sound like kale is like these little knives going around in your stomach and ripping stuff up, and it's just bad for you. Is that true? Well, according to mainstream science and medicine, as Healthline here reflects, oxalates, good or bad, oxalate is okay for most people, but for those with altered gut function, they may want to limit it, meaning if you have some gut issues, you might want to limit your kale intake, but for regular healthy people, not a problem. So if Billy happens to be one of these few unfortunate people who have trouble with their gut and therefore have to limit their oxalate and therefore kale intake, Billy should have just stopped eating kale. I mean, there's no law saying if you're vegan, you have to have an abundance of kale all the time. There's plenty of other plants you can eat.
I used to love kale chips. I stopped eating those.
And that was my biggest, most favorite meal to eat of the day, was a big kale salad. And I was killing myself with every bite. Didn't even know it.
Killing yourself, really. Like I said, if you find that your body's not reacting well to kale or any food, just stop eating it. There's literally thousands of plants you can eat. I don't understand this fixation on kale killing you. And does kale really kill people? Remember he's talking about it gave him osteoporosis and internal bleeding and all this stuff. Let's look. Is that what's supposed to happen to some people when they eat kale? Does it cause these problems? No. I mean, something else was up, but it probably wasn't the kale.
I started trying to figure out what it was, and I didn't want to blame the diet. Because when you're a vegan, you're in denial that the diet's killing you.
I noticed.
So now you guys see why I'm doing this response video here. So his claim is when you are a vegan, you are in denial that your diet is killing you. I mean, that's a huge statement. Like, where's your evidence? Where's your support for this? That all vegans, the diet is inherently deficient, and worse than that, it's killing you slowly. I mean, maybe bad things are happening to you. I'm not denying that. And who knows if your diet of plants or whatever is causing it. But to say this happens for all vegans, it's like an essential feature of eating an all-plant diet, is completely baseless and goes against the scientific consensus, as we'll see in a second.
It becomes a religion.
Yes.
And so you really don't want to, you become, a zealot
Like
for
a zealot,
it.
right?
Yeah. And you don't want to admit that it could be the diet that's killing you.
Oh, so it's a religion now. So a decision I made to eat plants because I find that killing animals needlessly is wrong, and I just could eat plants peacefully and not harm animals. Somehow that's become a religion and I'm some kind of zealot. No, I'm just peacefully here eating plants. I mean, what the hell's that a freaking religion?
I finally went to a doctor who used to be a real doctor, but it became a holistic doctor. And she told me, your diet is killing you. And then she made me get these blood panels, and she showed me in my blood panels why the diet was killing me.
Wow.
Again, I'm not a medical doctor or scientist, but I do know a few things about blood tests. I've been, getting blood tests and sharing them with you here for well over a decade as a vegan, not deficient. My point is, I have yet to hear of any blood tests where, you can look at it and say, hey, you definitely can't be vegan. It's killing you. I know blood tests can reveal deficiencies, which you can correct taking supplements, but I have never heard of a blood test that disqualifies you from being vegan.
So I don't have the ability to digest a vegan food from a vegan diet.
Well, that's quite interesting because I watched other videos from Billy here, and he said he was vegan for like 30 years. So you're getting by pretty well not being able to digest plants.
Yeah.
So people think that every single person on the planet is the same and everyone can eat the same things. So you can, if you go on a diet, it'll work for you because of this and that.
Crap.
Every person has their own individual diet they should specifically be on.
So really, there should be like 8.5 billion unique individual diet types for every human on planet Earth. That sounds quite a bit much. I mean, let's really back here. Is a vegan diet nutritionally adequate for all people? And as far as the scientific consensus says, yes, a well-planned, well-balanced, all plant diet is nutritionally adequate for all human beings, regardless of your blood type and all these individual measurements that he's talking about here. And by the way, that's just not my personal opinion that I'm making up like he seems to be doing. This is the opinion of health organizations from around the world who have reviewed the scientific research, and that's just the scientific consensus.
And that's going to be different than anybody else on the planet. It's like a fingerprint. And so if everyone did that, there'd be a lot less people sick right now.
Yeah.
Well, I'd sure love to see some evidence supporting this fingerprint diet. You know, we all have a unique diet that only works for us. I've not seen any supporting evidence. So if you know some, let me see down below. Some actual like peer-reviewed science, not some other guy in a podcast like what we see here. Well, let's move on to a question I posed earlier. Was Billy ever vegan? I've heard him refer to himself as vegan. I paused the video earlier when he called himself vegan. Was he ever really vegan? I think something he said here proves that he was never vegan.
It got me so sick. And I was doing it not to save animals and save the world. I just didn't like, I'm a texture
that doesn't
person.
work that way.
So identifying as vegan and not doing it out of any concern whatsoever for animals and instead doing it for personal, selfish reasons, that's not what veganism is. Veganism is not a diet. It's a stance against animal cruelty and exploitation. And this definition goes back to the 1940s. If veganism were a diet, you could, in theory, have vegan big game hunters, people that were eating a vegan diet. Maybe their cardiologist forced them on it, but yet they didn't want to give up big game hunting. They didn't want to give up their cattle ranching. See how absurd it becomes. So Billy was eating a vegan diet. He was eating a plant-based diet, but if he didn't give a shit about the animals, he wasn't vegan. And I'm not saying he's a bad person because he didn't give a shit about the animals. He's just not a vegan. He's on a plant-based diet. He's eating a vegan diet.
Yeah, saving the animals and all that doesn't work.
It doesn't. Well, it doesn't. See, a lot of vegans want to save the animals by not eating them, but really, in turn, it messes it up way more because of farming. But anyways.
Heard about that.
Yeah.
I believe that's his wife, and he should give him that lame old argument that vegans, the ones who avoid animal cruelty and exploitation and choose a diet which does not involve animals being bred into existence and slaughtered for us to eat, you're saying we are the ones that end up having more animals killed for us? Well, again, none of the science shows that to be true. I heard her mention farming, and let's talk about that, because most plants are bred for animals, like soy. People say, oh, this is so horrible, all you vegans eating soy. Well, no. More than 90% of U.S. soybeans are used for animal feed. And only a mere 6 to 7% of soybeans produced worldwide ever reach the mouths of human beings, let alone vegans, consider we're like 1% of the human population or something like that. So no. And if she were truly sincere about wanting to eat a diet that killed the fewest amount of animals, as you see here from this mathematical model whose numbers and data comes from like the USDA and published studies, you would have no choice other than to be vegan, because as you see here at the bottom, the least amount of deaths through slaughter and harvest come from eating grains, fruits, and vegetables. So anyway, back to Billy's claim about how eating all this plant food and kale was causing him to have osteoporosis and internal bleeding and gut problems. How does he know for sure that it was really these plants that were causing these health problems? Again, I'm not denying that he had health problems. I'm just skeptical of his claim that it was indeed kale that's causing him to bleed internally. Could it be, I'm just putting it out there, could it be there were some other things that he could have been ingesting over the many decades that he was vegan. That could have led to these health problems. In fact, substances that are known to cause health problems. Have a look at this clip of his.
The other thing is I've been taking colloidal silver and monoatomic gold for over 20 years now. Just a couple teaspoons every single day with some lemon.
All right, so this is really gets me here. He's been demonizing a plant that's known to be safe for most people. He's saying kale and oxalates ripping up your gut and vegan food is killing people, and we're in denial about it. So demonizing plants while at the same time putting up a product like colloidal silver is some kind of superfood that you should eat every day. Well, unlike kale, the FDA says colloidal silver is not safe. It can cause skin problems, like causes you to have blue skin, and it can cause organ damage, maybe the internal bleeding he's talking about, and seizures. Any of you guys catch that HBO Max documentary about the Love Has Won cult, whose leader died from a combination of alcohol abuse, anorexia, and colloidal silver use? But no, oxalates and kale and vegan diets in general are killing people. I've yet to see any documentary or any study showing that kale killed a person. Just saying. Oh, for shits and giggles, let's check out this older clip from Billy back when he was eating a vegan diet and meat was a bad, horrible thing to eat.
So guys, really important. Try to stay away from tortured meat. Tortured meat, tortured food can lead to adding inadvertently negativity into your body. And you won't even know it's there. You won't even know it's happening and why things are not going right. And it's because of that negative vibe. So if you love to eat meat or like to eat meat, if you're trying to manifest something, you may want to take a break from that for a little while during the manifestation process.
See, there's so many people like this who were formerly once vegan. They sound so convinced right here. They're just telling you, no, you can't intake this negative energy that comes from eating the meat. It's such a horrible thing. You got to stay away from that at all costs. Well, now, a few years later, what happened to that whole belief? That seems to be thrown out the window now. You know, what's with all this negative energy that you're eating on a daily basis now? Just, you know, shows you how these influencer types are so certain when they're doing one thing, then they'll switch to another thing and think they're so certain now and neglect and try to make people forget about all the stuff they said in the past. Like, oh, I was totally wrong then. If so, then why the hell should people believe you now? Don't believe influencers, people. Don't listen to me. Listen to evidence-based information. Listen to experts. And just because I'm on YouTube or he's on Ancient Aliens or whatever doesn't mean that we are experts in nutrition and dietetics. So leave your questions and comments down below. Let me know if you really think what Billy's saying is true here, that kale is ripping apart our guts and we're all vegan zealots here, we're blinded by religion and we're just letting ourselves die, we can't admit it. If so, I would love to hear from you. Come to my Friday live streams, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Be civil and we might be able to discuss this a little bit. So hope to see you guys all then. So until I see you guys on Friday, remember, it doesn't suck being vegan.